Welcome to a podcast.
Letting them lead.
The podcast is entitled Letting Them Lead. Or leave. They can come and they can go if that's part of their learning. But I am Marie Muratalla. This is my mom.
Hey.
Would you like to say her name?
Laurie Cook.
And we're not going to be talking to the camera the whole time. That's just to say hello, welcome, and we're going to be doing podcast episode 1, where I guess we just talk about why we came up with this idea, this crazy
That would be a good
idea.
first.
The lay of the land is we were out at breakfast 2 weeks ago, and beginning of 2024, talking about random things. We actually both work in the same school district. I'm in the preschool program.
And I'm TK.
Transitional kindergarten, which is all early childhood education.
Preschool developmental level.
Yeah. We wanted to kind of come together and talk about all the things we talk about when we go to coffee and breakfast.
The first time that we really talked about it, it was another breakfast, and we just all of a sudden morph into this conversation.
Yeah.
And I had asked you, would you do me a favor and take some notes on activities and things and behaviors that you find fascinating or noteworthy that because I want to write a book. I want to write it down. I want to understand how things.
Yeah. And my response is I'm doing that every day with data collection. And also, yeah, I think ideally like to have a book or like, because we talked about, I said, I wish there was a handbook for new teachers and new speech pathologists. I am a preschool speech pathologist and I work with teachers all day long, both general education and special education, early childhood educators. And I come in with all this background, one with preschool, but also with language development. And I don't always remember that the newer teachers don't have the same background that I do. Yeah.
And actually in the elementary setting, especially with TK and preschool being on that campus, they don't have the background of early childhood development.
Who doesn't?
In general, the level that we work with, I'm finding in talking with different people that that's not their original training.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you're in, and I don't know, I don't like to speak for other districts other than ours.
Well, it's
because
not
that's
just
what
our
we
district.
know. When I talk to other, like, let's just leave it in California, because that's what I'm most familiar with as far as ed code out here and everything like that. But in the public school system, if you have a certain kind of credential, you can get moved. At least what we've seen from other teachers, like they've been told, oh, you know, we have an opening in TK. We don't have enough students for your grade level.
Exactly.
So you're going to go from 5th grade to transitional kindergarten. Here's one summer to figure out how to change how you do things.
Hence, we need some hands-on materials.
Right.
To help that person that gets moved, that wants to move or doesn't want to move.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it can be very hard. And if it's hard on the teacher, guess who it's really hard on?
The student.
The little guy.
The little learner.
The little learner.
So the whole point of us coming together.
We get a little frustrated because we don't even know, like, it's just there's so much we want to say.
Yeah, well, there's so much we want to share with others when we're in the heat of the moment, but it's not always easy because we don't just have, again, something like an episode of a podcast or a guidebook to send them to.
Something tangible.
And we both love and live the early childhood education stuff and want to just come together and share things with you, little lessons, little tidbits that we've just learned along the way, so that way we can help you, one, make connections with your students that are meaningful for their learning, but also make life a little easier on you as you navigate this early childhood education world.
Now, it's funny you say easy, because I don't think I have it easy. I work really hard, but it's just because my environment's a little less conducive to a normal TK room, preschool room. But I'm still making sure that I'm looking for those things that the children see. So I have paint out every day. I have a lot of choices out every day. That's harder on me because...
Well, and I'm not talking about physically easier. I think what I'm thinking when we have conversations, I mean like the mindset and the mental load, because there's so much that goes into the planning for the kids. I see the special education side, so I see the IEP and the paperwork side of it with all of the assessments, because these kids are just at such an age where there is so much hands-on that can be done to help foster their learning and their growth.
Right.
So I mean more so like how we can make it easier on your mindset when it comes to that planning. Like how, you can work smarter, not harder, to hit all the same goal areas for a young learner. Mm-hmm. How working, with having a paint center every day, all the different things you can hit in a week to, work on interaction with their peers, to work on learning their colors, to work on the language side of things. And I do think
and the creative side, like what is on their mind? Why I have this great example. I had this little boy brand new from China, and one of the first things he wanted to do was paint. And that really excited me because he couldn't communicate otherwise. He kind of could tell, he could choose. I did the best I could, and he pointed to the easel. The paints were there for him, and, all that language that happened. Then we talked about what things were happening on his picture.
Yeah.
And
right. And I think, so in giving this kind of background of, there's like, that is like a really very us style summary of what you can expect in these podcast episodes. Obviously, we have a lot of ideas, and we have things we want to share with you in maybe more thematic ways, more organized ways. But ideally, we want to come to you with our two different, because while we're both in early childhood education, I guess this is probably a good time to give our background, so you know who you're talking to or who you're listening to. But like I said, I'm coming from special education, a speech pathologist side of things, and my mother you are coming from, I should just address you and not the people, but you're coming from a general education teacher side of things. You've done a lot of different things to get to where you're at now as a transitional kindergarten teacher in a public school district. I think that's also what we're kind of working together, and this is a lot of what our conversations talk about, is like, well, there's not a lot all the time, but there can be a lot of barriers and challenges when we are in a public school system. And so we also kind of want to talk about how we navigate that as we go through these episodes.
And how could we use research to back the idea that we can have a developmental program?
Right.
That would be a fabulous thing. And I know the curriculum that we work with is based developmentally. I actually love it. And it really does address all those things. And how can we use it to, facilitate all that growth?
Right. And how can we modify it when we have kids that maybe have, that's the thing, like whether they're on an IEP or not, every student has different needs. They have a different learning style.
Exactly. And that's the key. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm doing every day. And that's why I'm providing all the different choices and centers and the way I'm doing it. And I'm using the structure of the curriculum. Thank goodness I love it, because otherwise I would have not probably chosen this level, because I need to teach in a developmental program, because that's what I think. So just off topic for a second, I didn't even introduce myself.
I know. So let's backtrack.
Let me do that. And then I want to talk about how we were going back and forth with the title and why we kind of decided on this one. We may not even keep it, but I think I like
it. You give your background, I'll give my background. Hopefully a lot of you that have listened to my podcast in the past, because we're putting this out on the same platform that I had, or if you're already a YouTube follower, an Instagram follower, to my core, I'm passionate about child-led therapy and why that is so important for building connection. And so we'll get there, but that's part of where a lot of this comes from.
And my background is just that, is developmental, early childhood teaching. And I went to Fullerton College, and their child development center right now is amazing. It's changed so much since I've been there, but I can see it's so cool because the work I did there, I can see why it is the way it is now. But it just takes time, and that was over 30 years ago. But so you can see, but I saw the foundation, and now I see where it is today. So, but anyway, I have, all that background, and I love this level. And I decided as they got older to go back to school and finish my...
They being her kids.
Oh, yeah, I was babying them.
Yeah. No, you weren't babying. You were a stay-at-home mom until...
I was so blessed that I got to do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody will ever know in this era how fortunate I was.
Well, and like if you think about what that gives you just in this if we're staying on theme here, in being an early childhood educator, it's
I used it all with you guys.
Well, you used it, but you learn so much when you are applying when you take what you've learned from a college course, but you get to apply it in real life. Like I always say, and I'll tell anybody, and I mean this to with everything in me, that my students are my best teachers. Yes, I learned a lot in grad school, but actually getting in there, I didn't have aha moments right away in any of my classes unless I'd already worked with a child that had I had an experience with, you just, especially with this stuff,
and it's so weird is that, so I took a roughly 30-year break, and so I came back, and all of a sudden I started channeling my mentor teacher. I mean, literally channeling. Thanks. Anyway, it was amazing and talk about aha moments. I was in tears. I was absolutely in tears because everything just came through and it was working. And I looked around in my environment and these kids were all first 2 days. Within the week, they had this routine down, and it was just the environment. The last class I took was a couple summers ago. It was all about your environment changes the behavior. It creates it's behavior management if your environment, but not everybody knows that, and that's what I'm talking about. That's a component to what we thought our title should be, letting them lead. That works.
Them being the child.
Well, we figure people would know, but
Well,
maybe under them we'll put the children.
Yeah.
But
no, we're gonna have a whole subtitle thing.
But
you'll get
knowing their developmental level, knowing what they're capable of, and then helping them become the leaders of themselves first and foremost, right? But if their environment has all of these opportunities for them to have commitments in the classroom, positions, jobs, whatever those are, whatever the responsibilities are, there's ways to do this so that they're feeling the joy of doing it and remembering.
And that's a whole other episode. You got off track.
I'm so sorry, which is what I do.
I know. It's okay, that's why I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Narrative structure and all that. But you were an early childhood educator when I was little. When your kids were little, then you went back to school when we were older.
That.
Yeah, before I was
born.
But that was your first background. Yep. And then you went back to school to become a general education teacher in elementary. No.
K through 8.
K through 8, yeah. Okay. And then once you were done with that degree, you were... Tell them how long you were teaching 6th grade.
I've been teaching 6th and 7th. Started 7th grade. First half of my 18 years was 7th grade, and the other half was 6th grade, respectively. Give or take a year somewhere.
Yeah.
But and I did that because that was what I started training to do, because I had finished my early childhood education, so I went on to that. And it was rewarding, and I was still doing some early childhood stuff, like trying to sing, but didn't work.
Well, and that always surprised me. I was always like, why didn't you do like kindergarten? Like
it wasn't open.
It just I know. Well, and now I know how that really goes.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a new teacher, you get what you get.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
You don't throw a fit. No, I just remember always being like, why aren't you? And then it was once I was in the preschool program, I kept saying, Mom, you gotta go
I couldn't wait
TK or preschool.
Yeah, that's anyway. Yeah. Hence, here we are.
Here we are. Mine's a little bit shorter. I'm in my 7th year as a school-based SLP, so I'll have been graduated 8 years this April, I think. Yeah. And then I've been in preschool for 6 years. My first year was in elementary school. I did do middle school at your school for my internship.
That was super fun because we collaborated, and I learned so much from Marie.
It was fun, but I just remember sitting there towards the end of my school internship being like, when am I done? Middle schoolers and me were not meant for each other at that point in my life. And I'm still not in a season where I want to be in middle school. I never say never because you never know where you're going to be. And I love that about my job, that I could ask to switch. But I wanted to work more elementary school level. Did that for my very first year for my clinical fellowship. Again, enjoyed it, but my favorite were the transitional kinder and kindergartners. And then just so happened there was an opening in the preschool for the following year. So I requested to move there. They moved me there. It was seamless, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And then once I got into my preschool program, I had no idea what I signed myself up for, basically, because I didn't know anything about full inclusion programs, and found out, oh yeah, this is a full inclusion program, which means all the classes are made up of kids both gen ed and both with IEPs, and you have students that, later on in like the school years, their if they're in an SDC class, for instance, they might be a mild to moderate SDC class or moderate to severe SDC class. But what our preschool program did was take away all the mild, mod, severe, and put them all in one class with gen ed peers, which is fantastic. And it's such a cool model, and it really like seeing the progress that the kids make because they are included and they have that all day access to their gen ed peers is really, really cool. I'm really hopeful that California can get the ball rolling on more inclusion, like other states have done. And so, yeah, it's been great. It's been such a blessing, a big learning curve, but it's really pushed me further into having that passion for, one, the connections that I make with my kids, but also seeing that inclusion taking place. Because what happens in early childhood and any level of education, when you do have that inclusion, like especially educators that are willing to modify and make accommodations for kids and follow their lead, like truly follow their lead, just a lot of really good things can happen for a student's learning and their desire to learn, their desire to engage and interact. And so that's just part of what I want to bring to this too, is those conversations, which I know we'll have all the time.
Yeah. And I have to say, the other children in the environment with the inclusion concept, they're the most compassionate kids.
Oh, yeah.
They're interested in helping with those things.
Just building that
empathy
and that desire to help each other regardless of what you're helping with, I think. And I like it at this level too, because they don't even need you to say something about it. Like right. They start doing it before we start doing it.
That's
sometimes.
Right. That's right.
I work a lot with visuals, and I always have my core boards out and stuff, and I'll put them out on the table, and the kids that maybe don't necessarily need to use it. I always say in preschool we all need visuals, but the kids that are using verbal speech, for instance, even though they can say what they want verbally, I'll see them doing it because they know that their friend next to them needs a model. And I don't have to say, can you point to it? Even though you just said it, can you point to it? Like, they're just pointing to it and you'll see them. They'll look at their friend, because they know he's watching, and then he does it. And then I'll say, oh my gosh, look, you helped your friend. You helped him say what he needed because you did it. And he was so excited to copy you. Yeah, they're like, oh, well, if he does it like this, I can do it like this. Mind you, as teachers, we're in there modeling these things all day long. But who would they rather imitate?
Each other.
The kids that look like them. Right. They're the same height. They might have the same pitch of voice. Like, they're all rolling around on the carpet at some point in the day. Like, that's who they'd rather imitate. And so it's just cool when we have those inclusion models to be able to facilitate that learning and that growth, and the connections that they can make with each other.
Do these viewers get to let us know what they want, the topics they want to hear about?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, I guess what you can do, because you can comment on the podcast. I know on Apple Podcasts, I think you can comment. On YouTube you can. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment anything you want to hear about, any questions you have. You can always, through the links on the podcast, you can email. You can find my Instagram, which is going to be probably the quickest way. What I am going to be doing regularly on Instagram is putting out question boxes for us. So we can do like regular Q&As. I would like to have like one episode, maybe a month or every couple months. Like, we just go through and just answer questions. That way
That'd be awesome.
We can like hit all those points.
We have lots of topic ideas, but we'd like to put yours out first.
We have episodes where, like I said, we're going to talk about like what you can do with paint. Why making messes are good.
My favorite, why your environment, how you can move traffic.
Structuring your environment is huge.
So that it's smooth. How do you have more choices than children so that they get to choose? How do you have all these toys out and nobody touches them because they know that right now we're doing circle time?
Right.
You know, what's the way you speak to children? Those kinds of those are huge because there's different ways when we have building up language versus don't do that. We don't.
Right.
If you do that, they're not going to respond to you the same.
Yeah.
And we've got all kinds of
We've got those
tricks.
You know, you already, if you're a pediatric SLP, you're probably like, oh, you're gonna say you're gonna get down to their level? Yes.
Down. I'm always on the floor.
Get on their level.
I don't have to do squats anymore because they're taken care of every day for 3 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah, we do a lot of knee stretches in this family. Keeping our knees healthy. We'll do an episode on keeping your body safe in early education.
Keep your back straight. Don't hunch over.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we should do like a whole random tips and tricks for yourself.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean by keep making it easier on you, right? Like how to be, and we want you just, ultimately we can end on this too, is like, if you're in early childhood education, we want you to be excited. Have fun and find the joy. And
there's so much
when
joy.
The tough moments come, like how can we look at these maybe as learning opportunities and then kind of shift our mindset to still find the joy. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so that way you can get updates when our new episodes come out. If this was meaningful and valuable to you, feel free to share it with an educator that also might find some value in it, because that's what we're here to do. Share the joy, spread the value.